3D printing. This video is intended to show you the layer by layer deposition of 3D printing. As you can see in the screen, after the deposition of each layer, the layer would appear like this. On the right hand side near to the Eiffel Tower, that is the first layer, and on the left extreme side, that's the final layer. Usually when doing a 3D printing, the very first layer, which is the layer which is going to stick with the plate or board, so this layer the printing would go very slowly. This is because in order to ensure that the layer is stick with the plate firmly. In case this first layer is printing fast like the other layers, what will happen? Sometimes there is possibility the filament may not stick firmly with the board and can be dragged along with the printer while it's moving. So in order to prevent this damage, the very first layer would be printed very slowly, and for the next layers the speed may be increased slightly. What we are seeing in the right bottom side is the layers printed. So the extreme right side is the first layer and the last diagram is the final layer. So in between, if you can see the third and fourth layers, you can see some shapes, right? A triangular shape. So this shape can be altered in the software while we are creating the image. Before feeding, we should do the alterations in the software. So there you can select a shape. It can either be a triangle, or it can be a square, or it can be a hexagon. There are some predefined shapes. You can select one of that. And also you can check the angle of if it is a triangle. So here the angle is 45 degree. So that's why you can see the movement of the nozzle. It's a kind of diagonal, right? 45 degree. But you can select that angle 90 depending on your wish. But usually most of the time we go for the diagonal shape in order to make the strength in both the directions. And the size of this triangle, which is called as the mesh size, this can also be set in the software, a smaller size to a bigger size depending on the requirement. Similarly, the temperature can also be controlled, like extruder temperature, which is the nozzle, and platform temperature. These can also be controlled. The material which is being used, we can select the size of the material. So these things we can select. There are actually several different types of 3D printing technologies available. Some of them are fused deposition modeling, FDM, stereolithography, SLA, selective laser sintering, SLS, digital light processing, DLP. So these are some of them. Each of these technologies has their own advantages and disadvantages, and the choice of technology depends on the factors such as the material being used, the desired resolution and accuracy, and the complexity of the design. So in this diagram you may wonder, there are two gaps in between these three samples. So while other areas are being printed, how come the gap is not being printed? So the reason is, when the filament is extruded outside, according to the design, if there is no any design in the space, what will happen? The printer will not print it. So in that case, nozzle will not extrude the filament, and in that case nozzle will have the filament and will extrude it on the next available point on the diagram which is given. When the printing is ongoing, we can actually observe the temperature of the extruder, temperature of the platform, time left, how much of a percentage left to print, and which sample is being printed. So these things we can observe from the screen. When it comes to the last few layers, again it will print as like the first few layers. So in between the last and first few layers, there could be some shapes like triangle, hexagon, etc. But when it comes to the last few layers, it will print as like in the first layer. So a kind of zigzag movement. Once the test is over, the platform will go down automatically, and after that the extruder nozzle that will go back to its original position. Once the platform and the extruder is back to their original positions, a message will appear on the screen, experiment completed. So we can just press OK and remove our sample. So this is how we will usually remove the sample. After removing the sample, we can clean the platform and switch off the machine. One main disadvantage of 3D printing is the layers may not stick with each other at certain incidents. So what you are seeing in the screen is such a defect. So there you can see from the bottom image there is a crack initiation, and once you pull these two parts apart, as shown in the top diagram, you can see there is a crack. So these two layers did not stick well with each other. So this is a main disadvantage with the 3D printing. Other than that, it can print so many complex shapes.